welcome back to Storytime at the FEC. Today we have a story called The Tale of Tom Kitten. My name is Miss Stiger and I'm excited to be reading with you today. Once there were three little kittens and their names were Moppet, Mittens, and Tom Kitten. The kittens had soft furry coats. Each coat was a little different from the others. The kittens loved to tumble about and play outside. By the end of the day, their three lovely coats were usually very dirty. One day, the kitten's mother, Miss Tabitha Twitchit, invited her friends for tea. She wanted the children to look especially neat for her company, so she called the kittens inside to wash them and brush them and comb them. Miss Tabitha Twitchit dipped a sponge in water and scrubbed each kitten's face. She washed Moppet's face first. Next, the kitten's mother gently brushed their fur. She brushed their mittens first. Then she brought out a comb and carefully combed the kitten's tails and whiskers. Tom Kitten did not like to be combed. He was naughty and almost scratched his mother's paw. Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit dressed Mittens and Moppet in lacy white dresses and tied pretty flower handkerchiefs around their necks. Then she went to a drawer and pulled out a fancy blue jacket and blue pants for Tom Kitten to wear. Getting the kittens into their fancy clothing was not easy. Tom Kitten had grown a lot lately, and the fancy clothes didn't fit him very well. Several buttons popped off as soon as his mother buttoned them, but Miss Tabitha Twitchit sewed them right back on again. Then she plopped a big hat on Tom's head. She decided that Tom was going to look handsome. When the kittens were all dressed, their mother unwisely sent them out in the garden to be out of her way while she prepared treats for her visitors. "Now keep your clothes clean, children," said their mother. "Be sure to walk on your 2 feet, back legs, and keep your front legs off the ground. Stay on the path and do not go near the hen, the pigs, or the puddle ducks." Mittens and Moppet tried to be careful, but it was hard to walk on 2 legs instead of 4. Soon the kittens stepped on their dresses and fell on their noses. When they got up, their dresses had green grass stains on the front. "Let's climb up the rocks and sit on the garden wall," said Moppet. Mittens thought that was a good idea. First, the 2 kittens turned their dresses around. The grass stains were in the back. Then they skipped and jumped their way up the rocks to the wall. Moppet's kerchief fell off and landed in the dirt. Tom Kitten tried to jump his way up the rocks too, but he couldn't jump very well in the pants he was wearing. Instead, he had to climb up the rocks very slowly. And as he climbed, all but one of his buttons popped off. They flew in every direction. By the time Tom Kitten reached the top of the wall, he was a mess. Moppet and Mittens tried to straighten his jacket and pants, but things didn't get better. First, Tom's hat fell off. Then his last button popped off. While the kittens were having so much trouble, they heard something strange. Pick, pat, paddle, pat. Pick, pat, paddle, pat. Then they saw the 3 puddle ducks coming down the road. Pick, pat, paddle, pat. Pick, pat, paddle, pat. One duck led, and the other 2 followed. They stopped in front of the kittens and stared up at them with their 6 tiny eyes. The puddle ducks were named Rebecca, Jemima, and Drake. Rebecca picked up Moppet's kerchief and put it on. Jemima Puddle Duck picked up Tom's hat and put it on. Moppet laughed. She laughed so hard that she fell off the wall. Mittens and Tom Kitten climbed down after her. By the time the kittens reached the ground, they had lost the rest of their clothes. Moppet stepped up to Drake Puddle Duck, who liked to be called Mr. Drake. "Please help us put Tom's clothes back on," she said, "and let's make sure they don't fall off again." Mr. Drake listened to Moppet. He moved sideways towards the clothes and slowly picked up each piece with his beak. Then he dressed himself in Tom Kitten's clothing. The suit fit Mr. Drake even worse than it fit Tom Kitten. Mr. Drake didn't seem to mind. "What a lovely morning," he said. Jemima and Rebecca Puddle Duck put on the 2 dresses. The 3 puddle ducks marched up the road, walking their funny walk, pit-pat, paddle-pat, pit-pat, paddle-pat. When Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit went out to the garden, she couldn't believe her eyes. The kittens had climbed back onto the wall and were sitting there without any of their clothes. The kitten's mother picked them up and put them back on the path to the house. Then she scolded them and shooed them inside. "My friends will be here any minute and you are a mess, Mrs. Tabitha Twitchit. I am not happy with you, not happy at all." She sent the kittens to their room. When her friends arrived, Miss Tabitha Twitchit said, "My kittens are in bed with the measles." Of course, this was not true. The visitors heard the loud thumps and crashes coming from upstairs. They couldn't imagine what could be making such strange noises. Mittens, Moppet, and Tom Kitten were not in bed at all. Instead, they were having a wonderful time tumbling and playing as kittens will do. Meanwhile, the puddle ducks waded into a pond wearing the kittens' clothes. The clothing fell right off. After all, they had no buttons. The 2 white dresses, 2 flowered kerchiefs, and the blue jacket and pants all sank to the bottom of the pond. Mr. Drake, Rebecca, and Jemima Puddle Duck have been looking for the lost clothes ever since. That is why they keep dipping their heads into the water as ducks will do. The end. Thank you for joining us for our story time today at the FEC. Please come back next week for another story.